Hello and welcome to this edition of Community Voices on Civic Space TV. I am Philip Melissa. I'm happy to have all of you, and indeed, it's a pleasure sharing your knowledge with us on topical discussions. And today, we are talking about a matter so important in this country. There is a lot of talk about many things, but specifically at the Parliament of the Republic of Uganda, there is a bill termed the National Coffee Amendment Bill 2024, where, among other things, it seeks to dissolve the Uganda Coffee Development Authority, and a lot of conversation has been held around this particular subject in the country. And we want to make sense of all this whole process of amending this bill, dissolving the UCDA, taking it to the Ministry of Agriculture, Animal Husbandry and Fisheries, and looking at why it is such a contentious issue in the country, and why there is a lot of conversation around this particular subject. Again, it's coffee. And I understand we have very many other crops in the country and many other agencies in the country. Why UCDA, why coffee, and why do we have many people opposed to this particular move by government, and why do we have government insisting that it must do this? We want to make sense of all those events and scenarios in the country. But before we get into that, I want to first hear from you specifically how you are and where you are at, and give us something we can get to know about your particular location today. Like myself here, in Kampala, it's a rather cloudy atmosphere. Business is moving. I think rains might come in a little later in the day, and my view here is a couple of hills. I can view Namirembe Hill out there. I can view Old Kampala Hill. I can view Rubaga Hill and a couple of other landmarks in my fore and far grounds. I'm feeling excited. I'm happy to have you. I'll start with Timothy. Timothy, greetings. Welcome to the show. And how is
Philip, thank you so much. My name is Chemonges Timothy. I serve as the Executive Director here at the Center for Policy Analysis, but also the Parliament Watch program. Our institution focuses on parliamentary democracy, monitoring, offering support, but also providing an oversight on the operations and the works of Parliament. In Kampala, I am, and I think we share the same experience in terms of weather, in terms of the projections of the afternoon weather, and I'm glad to be here. This is my first time to be in the community chat show, and I look forward to a very fruitful and good conversation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Timothy. We're happy to have you. It seems Mr. Edward cannot hear me for now. We wait to see as he clears his space. Mr. Muganga Douglas, you're welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, sir. I am Muganga Douglas, community leader from Chotera district. Also an aspirant to Parliament for Chotera. But I also come into this space as a farmer from Kabwoko village in Chotera district. Thank you for hosting me today. And I look forward to a fruitful discussion.
Yes, thank you so much. Yes, Mr. Natamba, you can hear me now. Thank you for joining.
Yes, please. Yes, please. Yes, good afternoon, Philip, and good afternoon, viewers and dear panelists. I'm happy to be here. My name is Natamba Edward, and I work as Executive Director for Southwestern Institute for Policy and Advocacy. In brief, it is called SOWIPA. It's based here in the town of Ntungamo, but it operates in Ankole region. I'm also, Mr. Philip and viewers, I'm also a coffee farmer, and I have over 5,000 trees of coffee, which actually this year they have flowered, and I thought next year I would get some good cash from it. But as we are going to discuss, maybe we are not yet sure where we are heading. I'm happy to be here, and thanks for hosting me.
Mr. Sam Sakwa, greetings. You're welcome to the conversation. You can hear me? Seems Mr. Sam cannot hear me, but it's good we are joined by Miss Mabonga Elizabeth from Bale City.
Mrs. Mavonga. Thank you.
We're happy to have you. And how is Bale?
Yeah, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sorry for a slight delay, but I hope I'll be able, and I pray that we do it in like 30 minutes because you allow me to do my contribution, because in the next few minutes, I'm entering into another meeting. I'm sorry, members. Hello, do you hear me? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you so much.
I think Mr. Sam, but we shall keep on with the conversation as we wait for Sam to join us once again. And I want to start with you, Mr. Shemonges from Parliament Watch and indeed the policy organization. The National Coffee Amendment Bill 2024. We hear a lot when you read in the papers, when you on the streets, everyone is talking at border stages, in the taxis, in the buses. Everywhere there is a lot of conversation about coffee and people saying they are taking away our coffee. From a policy point of view and indeed the better understanding of the bill, what are some of the highlights of this bill that are subject to conversation and indeed the contention we see in the Parliament of the Republic of Uganda? Yes, Chemonges.
All right. Thank you so much, Philip, and thank you to the panelists for making it to today's conversation. And I should start from the perspective that the discussions to rationalize the UCDA, one of the agencies, is part of the ongoing initiative and move by government to rationalize, but also merge some of the agencies that have already been established back to the mother ministries. And so this is just part of the process, and UCDA is one of the agencies that are now planned. We've already had previous discussions where agencies such as the National Forestry Authority, the Uganda Human Rights Commission, the Equal Opportunities Commission, and many of these other agencies being taken back to their line ministries. And so the effort again by government is that they're able to streamline the management, but also how to save costs in terms of both administration, but also wages. Of course, my personal position is that the decision to rationalize UCDA is a wrong move, and that it should be met with equal resistance from the stakeholders. Again, partly because of the critical role that coffee plays both in the livelihoods of the people, but also contributing to the economy of the country. I choose to look at this from two perspectives. One is that as we stand today, coffee is a national treasure, and that we must at all efforts look at it from a national perspective, meaning this is a product that is likely or has greatly contributed to the well-being of the people, but more importantly, it has a great potential of ensuring that we get to a greater height as a country, but also the welfare of the people is improved. Now, that's the first perspective. Two, also looking at it from the perspective of the ministries and their capacity to execute the mandate of what UCDA has done. As it stands today, Ministry of Agriculture is in my assessment, I think that there are still a lot of things that need to be addressed by government, even in terms of management, the ability and capacity be enhanced to be effective. And so I think that they are not in a position where they can effectively address, but also provide oversight and proper management for UCDA. But more importantly, is also to appreciate that at the point when government was establishing some of these agencies, there was a specific purpose, and that with the hope and objective of ensuring that you're managing the cost, you're managing the expenditures. If an agency is doing the right work, if an agency is actually bringing forward resources, and that it is in a position that it is playing a very critical role, and there is no issue. Some of these agencies should be protected, and it should be it's in the best interest of ensuring that we protect these agencies to execute their mandate. There are factors and there are things that we should look at as a country, where you say there are specific products, there are specific goods that require specialized management, specialized skill and experience to enable it to enable you get the best out of it. So, for example, is if we look at the oil and the gas industry, it would be foolhardy to imagine that you can take the mandates that UNOC and these other agencies that are currently doing work in that direction, and you take them back to Ministry of Energy. Just beyond the ability of Ministry of Energy handling this, you need a special, you need specialized individuals, specialized experience to handle. So I think coffee is one of those. But more importantly, is to look at it from the perspective that the potential that coffee has is likely to take
Timothy, if you allow me, you talk about the possibility of this whole very important treasurable commodity called coffee in the country, and you say it cannot be managed in the ministry. But look, government is saying, yes, we are dissolving this agency and we're going to absorb the technical, the key staff of the UCDA into the ministry, and indeed they will carry on with performing the duties they were doing at the agency, such that we continue to have the quality you talk about, we continue to have the progress you talk about, we continue to have the coffee crop or cash crop managed so well in the country, and we continue seeing the results. What is so wrong with that?
While on the face value, it may appear as though there is no problem, and it is simply a shift of locus. You know that we are simply shifting this from one place to another. It's important for us to focus on to look at things to do with the capacity of the ministry itself. Because you see, even when you establish a department, it doesn't operate in its own. It's part of the ministry. And so there are mechanisms in which it has to be enabled to operate. Secondly, you appreciate the manner and the bureaucracies that some of these ministries have, even the attitude really in terms of how they look at most of these. You've seen, for example, on the floor of Parliament, the Ministry of Agriculture has brought statements, it has brought reports, and you realize that there's a lot that is desirable. They fall short on many of these things. And so I think that we've got to ensure that we are handling the coffee discussion in a more objective manner, and that we must protect coffee both as a national treasure, but also for the goods and the livelihood of the people.
Thank you, Timothy, for that. And I want to bring in quickly Mrs. Mabonga from Mbale. I know Mbale is a powerful coffee hub. Through very many years, when you go to school, primary school, pupils are taught how Arabica coffee is on the slopes of Mount Elgon, and we talk about the Bugisu Cooperative Union and its roles in the coffee sector through the years, from independence, even before the independence. Elizabeth, what do you hear about this particular bill in Mbale, and indeed, what is your position about the dissolution of the Uganda Coffee Development Authority? I think in the instant, Mrs. Mabonga is unable to talk to us, but we hope she will be able to correct the technology and talk to us again and quite well and openly. I want to bring in Sam, Mr. Sakwa. Look, we are saying coffee, like Timothy tells us, is a national treasure. And we talk about many treasures in this country. People say oil is a national treasure. People tell us about tourism. People tell us about gold and many other things produced in this country. What is so special about this coffee? And indeed, what is your position about the dissolution of the Uganda Coffee Development Authority? Yes, Mr. Sakwa.
Hello?
Yes. Can hear you now.
Yes. You can now hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Philip, for giving me this opportunity. This is the second time I'm joining the panel discussion. I am a community leader and a former retired secondary school teacher. So I am even serving in the cultural institution of Bamasaba. And you know that I am based here in Bumasiche, in the village, in a rural setting. I am a coffee farmer, and I am so passionate about it because coffee is our heartbeat as a Bamasaba, because we come from traditionally an area which was known for growing coffee. So it is our nerve center with the people from the central region. And it has a lot of attachment to us because it is the coffee, part of the BCU contributed towards the independence of Uganda, guaranteeing the independence. So it is something which is really affecting us. So the issue of UCDA is touching us, and it is touching the feelings of emotions of Bamasaba. And everywhere you're talking, everywhere you pass, that is the conversation going on. Because you remember initially, Uganda was a cash crop economy, and it depended on the three major exports. That was coffee, cotton, and then tea. And then you know very well that later on, with the BCU, Bugis Cooperative Union, all through during the turbulence, it only managed to survive. It was the only union which survived. And we have really tried to carry it through. Now, the government is coming up with this issue of rationalization. Yes, it is understandable. Trying to reduce the cost of administration, trying to bring about efficiency, as they are saying, and also trying to improve the coffee value chain. But then we find we are very uncomfortable with that because we feel that there has not been enough consultations, especially with the stakeholders, the farmers. I don't think in all this we have been involved. It has just been an issue which the government is bringing up, but then as stakeholders, we need to be reassured that are you going to add value for money when it is when UCDA is brought back to the MAIF? Because there are issues whether the coffee value chain will be maintained, whether the standards, whether the quality will be maintained, because it takes time. You remember, we used to have the Coffee Marketing Board, which was regulating the coffee, the sale and so on. Then our very government came up and even abolished it. Then in 1991 came up with UCDA. Now, UCDA, even if we were apprehensive at that time, but then it really, we are very proud of it because at least it has really provided the necessary skills. It has given us advice, and then we see that it has really taken the lead in the value chain, increasing the quality of the coffee and our exports. So why do you have to fix something which is already working? When a vehicle, when it is working, what you need to do is just to make it run better. You add the oil to make it do better. But now there are issues because now when you bring these people in UCDA, yes, it was bringing revenue to the government. It was not one of those agencies which were making losses. It was doing well, but and then the technocrats there were well paid. Now my problem is, when you bring them to the mother ministry, you are saying you are creating a department. Are you going to downsize? Are you going to cut their salaries? Because we know that even a PS earns about 3 million. You are bringing in people who are earning over 10 million to come to join this. I think it's going to work properly.
Mr. Sakwa, one of the things government is saying is that they have, because people are working in the agents and they are paid lots of money, government is unable to continue paying those terms of monies, yet they can be in the ministry and the salary scale is reduced such that government is able to use some of that money to facilitate other social services in the communities, health, education, roads, and so on. And they say this can still be done with people coming back to the ministry and they go to the streamlined salary scale of the public service.
Yes, I understand that. Yes, there are those technocrats. There are technocrats like who know the value of coffee and so on. What about these other general workers? Are they really going to be all absorbed? And then you will find that is it the Ministry of Agriculture? What has it done differently before? Because I would take it as one of the ministries which are just a lame duck, not performing. Can you tell me any of the agencies or anything where you can be proud of the Ministry of Agriculture? Maif? You see, I am a bit apprehensive about it, that yes, if you integrate them in, and then really, are you going to cut costs or are you going to create efficiency? Because it takes time to establish the reputation. Actually, I have tried to talk to some experts and who are telling me that it takes about 5 to 10 years to get that the system regulated, to get the accreditation. Now, can you just make that blunder? That transition is going to cause us problems.
Yes, thank you so much. I wanted to pick from you. You are from Mbale, and indeed, Mr. Sakwa was telling us about the importance of coffee in that particular region. First of all, what are you hearing about the National Coffee Amendment Bill in Mbale, and indeed, what is your position as the people of Mbale as regards this particular rationalization and indeed dissolution of the Uganda Coffee Development Authority?
Thank you so much, our moderator. Indeed, just like Mr. Sakwa and Timothy have spoken, this policy of rationalizing USDA, merging some of the mother and some of those departments into the line ministries of government, to me, I'm one of those crying. Why am I crying? Simply, it's now like I want to use some examples. For example, I am a retired local government worker, and upon decentralization, everybody was happy. We thought that decentralization were taking the services nearer to the people and improving. But like I speak right now, most of the local governments, there's a rampant corruption, there's decline in services, people are crying awful, and some of the local governments where we have weak leaders, indeed there is no improvement. So picking from that sum, as a farmer, as a daughter, as a child who was grown in the coffee growing area, to me, I believe government have sinister plans just to marginalize the farmers, including the exports. Just like Mr. Sakwa has said, how do you expect dissolving an agency that has been bridging the gaps of farmers and exporters, and you bring something new? After all, most of the government departments have failed to do work. One, they cry of payments. Two, people have lost. There's mismanagement of jobs. Today in Uganda, people are doing wrong things. They have been placed in wrong jobs. So you cannot tell me that these experts who have been working in UCDA, when they merge and go back to government, you reduce his 10 million and he earns maybe 2 million, is going to work. Definitely they will not. One, people will look for greener pastures and they will leave the work they have worked for so many years and the expertness will be gone. We can take an
Elizabeth,
example. Why?
Elizabeth,
Yes,
is
please.
it fair? Is it fair for someone who works for the UCDA and 10 million and another person who works in the Ministry of Agriculture who is at the same rank in terms of public service as that person and 2 million? Is that fairness in your?
It is very unfair, and that's why I'm talking now from the point of view of the people who are supposed to implement. If we fail to get them work because of the reduction in their payments, definitely the guidance and the skills and knowledge that have been given to the farmers and the other people will not be given. And like I am already seeing, there's a lot of talk on every radio, in public, in drinking places. People are crying awful, and this is what they are saying. If that's what government wants to do, they are going to cut the coffee trees and let them export, let them do dissolve. Can you imagine? It is already an attitude which has developed among the populace because they do not feel comfortable. To me, first of all, before you bring in any change, we must do the nitty-gritties. How? We must come from the bottom-up approach. But many policies have come in Uganda. We start them from up and then we go down trickle. At the end of it all, I want, for me, I want you so many examples. For example, we had wealth creation. How many people are very wealthy? We have now PDM. We had Mioka. You had so many. Tell me, why hasn't the least Ugandan become rich? Today people are crying simply because those who are in government, when they have what is in it for me, they rush to create changes, which changes are not in favor of the masses. And before you realize, they collapse with what they have brought. So to me, definitely, like my brother has noted, coffee for us as Bamasaba, as people of the region, Elgon region, this coffee, Uganda would never even have gotten independence if it didn't have this commodity. And this commodity, I hear even we have, I think, some premises in London simply. And this coffee did a lot to build schools around Bugiso and even in Teso, even in Soroti. Therefore, a commodity which nearly has served every Ugandan. Why would you put it in the hands of very many people? At the end, there will be no accountability. I want to tell you that personally, I worked in government. And in the department of gender where I was managing one department with almost 6 small units. But every other year, some of these departments we never had an activity. For example, like children's days, women's days, they would give you little money, and the others like disability never had. Why? Because of merging. And definitely, I am always saying, if there is anything that the people, the farmers can do, let us resist these stupid policies. And because now I am aware that our people who go to discuss, they have already sold this UCDA to some person who has a lot of money, maybe companies, maybe within or without. So they are not doing it in good, in fairness at all. They are marginalizing people. Now, for example, we hear oil. Are these Westerners the common men earning from it? It is those who have companies and those who have staged as agents. And this is what they want to do. Another example I want to bring is when they remove the cooperative societies. I thank God that the Lamas have a clang on theirs. But even then, they have squeezed us. This cooperative society of Bugiso is no longer like the one I knew when I was growing, simply because government takes a lot of interest, and when they want to get interest, they push the people who must be given a chance to promote what they do so that they also get quality and they sell well. They promote injustice to these people, and in the long run, even as I speak, the quality you are talking about is no more. I cannot see the standard of coffee which we used to see when I was a younger lady. I saw quality, the coffee was good, Now
Thank
we have
you.
only few people who are doing that simply because of the negativity and the I would say the unbearable policies that bring in and squeeze people. So to me, finally, I want to people should resist and say no. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Mabonga Elizabeth. And indeed, I gave you quite longer time because you said you want to leave earlier. But thank you so much for that submission. And some of the key things you talk about is the fact that cooperatives were taken away, but even those that were insisted on existence have been squeezed. And you mentioned that government takes a lot of money from them and in terms of profit and so on. But we have that conversation a little later. I want to bring in Edward. Edward, you said you were a coffee farmer, and from Ntungamo, where you are based, and indeed the entire region of Western Uganda, what are the people talking about coffee, and indeed what is your personal position on the dissolution of the UCDA, and do you think this is a move government should be taking right now?
Thank you very much, Philip, for that wonderful question, and good afternoon, viewers and dear panelists once again. Mr. Philip, I think I'm one of those people who are really disappointed by the government and also the members of parliament that are supporting this bill. The bill that is, as one of our panelists said, it's one of the hearts of Ugandans. I think you would agree with me that Ugandans almost 90% are engaged in agriculture. And actually, people see coffee as a cash crop of Uganda and Bugisu, but as I talk now, people have sold their cows, people have removed their forests, and they have planted trees, especially in the district where I come from, in Ntungamo. And as I told you, I also personally have about 5 acres of coffee, and I was looking at really benefiting a lot. Dear viewers, coffee and other major cash crops should be looked at the engine of this economy. I'm wondering how you could get UCDA and say that you want to join it with Ministry of Agriculture, because most programs, as other speakers have said, they have totally failed under that ministry. We have seen agriculture extension workers. The government have empowered them. They have given them motorcycles. I think every extension worker has a motorcycle. They have trained them, but reaching in communities is still a big problem. In countries that we have seen that are successful in coffee growing, for example, Vietnam, Brazil, Colombia, we have countries like Ethiopia, Madagascar. All those countries, they have independent and autonomous authorities that take care of their exports of coffee. So I don't know. What worries me, Philip, is that in these ministries and government agencies, they collect taxpayers' money, they put it there in a consolidated fund, yes, and some of that money is given to those leaders to go and benchmark from developing countries and from other countries, even as East African countries that have successfully implemented such exports of coffee. And when they come back, what they learned, it cannot be really translated in what they are doing. So if these countries where they have been successful in exporting coffee and they have autonomous agencies, how come Uganda is looking at rationalizing UCDA? You know, I think according to the policy, rationalization policy, yes, there are some departments of government and agencies that have been, we can agree, we can see some agencies which are not doing well. But UCDA has been slowly by slowly, since its creation, improving the quality of coffee. Yes, I agree that there are some challenges. For example, going down there to farmers and train them on how they can do farming, the quality of, how they can grow coffee. but on production and quality assurance, they have done a distinction. So the whole point, the government should be putting a much emphasis in building capacity of this agency, in adding more I want to empower viewers and other listeners to go and read a small article. It was a brief article from Professor Ezra Seruma. I read it yesterday. And when you read, this is a real economist. But I wonder, somebody comes with an idea and pushes it as if he has read all the books, he has done all the research, he's more of economist. You will find somebody with all the energy that I want this one to be done. So if we are really to rationalize agencies of government to reduce the costs, I see other, so many areas where the government should put much emphasis. Take an example. Why can't it reduce on the number of parliamentarians? We all know how much money is going into that house. And we know how much money even the speaker herself is spending on his work, how much she's spending. Look at
Edward,
yes, please.
Edward, you are talking
Yes, please.
about reduction of the money is going to parliament, and government is telling you that yes, we have recognized we have a series of challenges and we are spending poorly as a government. Therefore, let us take steps. And Timothy earlier talked about that policy of RAPEX, rationalization of government agencies and government expenditure. And they say, let us start with these agencies, including the UCDA, so that we reduce the expenditure. And indeed, we're able to save some money to spend now on the other things you normally talk to me here, roads, the education, the health sector, and so on.
Philip, I agree with you, but I still insist that the approach they are taking, it is personalized. It is not to the benefit of Ugandans. Why should you start with UCDA without starting with local governments? How many local governments are we creating? And I know others are coming up as we approach elections. How much money is going to parliament? Why is the government, actually the president's office, creating more expenditure on defense? Having RDCs, you have deputy RDC. In Ntungamo right now, we have about, at the district, we have about 2 assistant deputy RDCs. If it is being done in the good heart, why are you adding more expenditure than first putting it on a halt? Then you show Ugandans that you are doing a right thing with a good heart. I think you're getting my point.
I pick your point.
Because coffee itself can actually facilitate the UCDA, coffee itself. It can facilitate the workers of that authority. Because this year, I engaged in coffee trading, by the way, in my community. Coffee rose from 8,000 a kilo, clean coffee, up to 13,000. It means even if you charge some, and I know if they have been charging 2% as a cess, some interest remaining for administrative costs in UCDA. However, when it grew from 1% to 2%, Minister of Finance took it up and started collecting that money. We don't know how much it is now pushing to UCDA. That is the challenge we have with Uganda, with our government. Even at local government, you know that all the money they collect, it goes to Minister of Finance. Now taking it back has been a problem. It meets a lot of people, corrupt people, and we have been here on some sessions discussing about corruption. You know how much money is being swindled from the central government when it is going back to where it has been collected. So to me, coffee can be independent because it has shown capacity that Ugandans can grow coffee. It can compete with other African countries, and even facilitate the department or the authority that is really helping us to move on. To me, I think to me, it is not being in good faith, being done in good faith. And actually, I'm disappointed with the MPs that are not supporting this issue of this bill, because we see Honorable Gisu region and Abuganda region, those MPs are the ones who are coming up supporting that coffee should not be taken. Where are Western MPs? Because they know only that those MPs that are in parliament just to win and also be there, they have to support what an idea that is brought by cabinet. They cannot oppose it. And I think when we go to elections, Ugandans are watching. By the way, this coffee bill, it is going to show what Ugandans think. Me, I know
Thank
any
you.
MP that is supporting this bill will be handled when elections come.
Thank you so much, Matamba,
Thank
for
you.
that powerful submission about coffee and the amendment bill there. And indeed, you mentioned key things, something like people are cutting down these other trees and people are selling cows to invest in the coffee industry. That is something so important you mentioned, and indeed, it should be looked into and the voices of such people recognized in the debate around the National Coffee Amendment Bill 2024. I want to come to Muganga Douglas from Chotera. When you listen to what is happening today, the membership of the Buganda caucus in the Parliament of the Republic of Uganda is leading the opposition to the amendment of the Coffee Act, and indeed, they say you cannot rationalize the UCDA. They say this is very important. They talk about its value and what it's done and how successful it has been, and indeed, they mention that this should be kept. What are you hearing from Chotera? And if you were in Parliament today, like you seek to be there in 2026, which side are you at? Would you be supporting the amendment or in opposition to the amendment? Yes, Mr. Muganga.
Thank you, sir, for giving me the opportunity to put forward these opportunities. These opinions that come from our ground here in Chotera, I wish to stress again that I myself am a coffee farmer. I have close to about 4.5 acres of, down in Kawoko village, Chirumba sub-county in Chotera district. So I speak from a point of knowledge of what is happening on the ground, and after having consulted from other farmers. The performance of UCDA has been fairly good, even though we can't say it's excellent, but considering what was in the earlier years, we've experienced better performance. Chotera is a district within Buganda region, and the Buganda Kingdom has been spearheading a campaign known as Emwanyi Terimba. In English, you would translate it as coffee doesn't lie, or coffee is truthful, as in once you invest in coffee, you reap the benefits. And the campaign has been successful, led by the Katikiro of Buganda. Now, under the Buganda Kingdom, there is an institution called and that is the institution that has been directly coordinating with UCDA. Bukadef is Buganda Cultural and Economic Development Foundation. And they have been giving out seedlings to farmers. That's why you've seen an increase in the quantity of coffee that has come out of Buganda and Uganda at large. So our position is that we reject the Coffee Bill 2024 in its entirety. The mistake that the NRM government, led by their chairman, Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, who happens to be the president of Uganda, is that they kind of take us, the citizens, for granted. That in many instances, they do implement things, they proceed with things without doing adequate consultation. And this is another moment that they've done the same. They do adequate consultation from the farmers and other coffee stakeholders. There are so many important coffee stakeholders, and they have all risen up resisting the bill. As farmers from Chotera district, we strongly reject the Coffee Bill 2020. We think that it should be taken to the rubbish bin, and then return to the population and make widespread, inclusive, consideration. rationalizing itself is okay.
If you allow me, you are from the National Unity Party, is that right?
Yes, please.
And one of the things the NUP has accused this government is poor spending habits. The government is coming out to realize that accusation, and they say we are guilty, let us do something about it. The same National Unity Party that you come from is saying, no, you should not do that. What should government do?
Actually, what we are saying is do first things first. The most wasteful expense is happening within salaries on political appointments that are even not very necessary and are not impactful in improving the livelihoods of people. We are saying that you have a cabinet so big. We have an army of presidential advisors that don't even advise the president. We have assistant RDCs. We have RDCs. Now, even the assistant RDCs have assistants. You know, we are saying first cut that, okay? But then that is where the real expenditure is. And other, there is large expenditure on purchase of military weapons that we currently don't need. First resolve that expenditure. But there are so many that will come with.
Douglas, would you then agree with me when I say that you and indeed every other speaker that is opposed to the act and government are doing the
It is a bill. It is not an act.
Agree on the same thing of reducing expenditure, but where you do not agree is just where to start from. Is that the point?
Even beyond where to start from, how it is done. Democracy, democratic governance, and we are struggling to establish democratic governance in Uganda. And it is a tall order because of the current NRM regime. Democratic governance, the principles are such that it should be a government of the people, by the people. You know, you should not do anything without adequate consultation of the people. And the moment you bring up something and you experience large-scale opposition from the population, repeal it, throw it in the dustbin of history, get back to the people, consult extensively, respect the people. And that's why we want to say that we are tired of winking. In many instances, we are always complaining about a government that does not respect people, that does not consult from the people. So we wish to propose to the people of Uganda, 1 year left come 2026, we should unite, resolve, and install a new government. I would propose that we consider the people of the National Unity Platform. We pledge that once we get into government, we shall be respectful to citizens. We shall be consulting from you people before we do anything. But we have a clique of people that have that self-entitlement. They think they're the most brilliant. They are local people. We should get them out because we are tired. Everything we are pleading about the absence of violence from the military for people to exercise their political rights. Now we are appealing that they shouldn't establish laws that curtail freedom of economic practice and all that. They are not appropriating resources where they are needed most. What we expect more from government is to get more resources, give them to UCDA, give them to cooperative societies for farmers, so that there is collective bargaining, collective marketing, and collective value addition on coffee. That is what we want. The money, we are even talking about a kilogram costs 8,000 shillings. That is still little money. We want to get more value from coffee. But how shall we achieve that when the little progress that has been made, you are taking us miles back? We reject that bill in its entirety. President Museveni and the NRM MPs who are going to forcefully pass that bill, you are going to have political repercussions in this. The population of Uganda is going to rise up and vote against you come 2026 and establish a new regime that listens to it.
Thank you so much, Mr. Muganga Douglas from Chotera, such a powerful submission. Timothy, I want to come back to you, and I hope you can hear me. Look, the NRM government, like the former speaker just mentioned, is trying to make sure this passes, and the person of the President of the Republic of Uganda has continuously said this is a matter that must be solved and must be done. And this is a government that has a manifesto. If I take you back 2-3 years ago, when the president won the 2021 election, in his acceptance speech, he did mention that he's uncomfortable with how global trade is happening. And he spoke about many commodities in the automotive industry, in tourism. But let me speak about coffee. He didn't talk about the fact that coffee generates about $456 billion in trade annually, globally. And he spoke about the coffee producers earning just 25 billion of that. And he continued to say Africa earns 2.5 from that. And he said Uganda, that produces most of what is exported from Africa, earns just $800 million at the time. And today I know that figure has gone up quite a bit to about $1.3, $1.4 billion. This president is trying to do things to match the manifesto, in that he wants to reduce on export of raw materials, and we know there is a ban on the export of raw materials in the mining sector and many other sectors. And he's being consistent with his word. We Ugandans seem not to be interested in a consistent leader. Is that so? Is that the position of Ugandans, that we did not read that from the start, that this president was about to do something about his manifesto, about his word, and he did? When he has started acting, we think it is not right to act in the way he's acting. Yes, Timothy.
Thank you so much, Philip. And listening to the panelists who are heavily invested in the farming of coffee and the processes, you definitely see that it is not by mistake that there is a unanimous feeling and position that the decision being taken is not the popular opinion of the people. Secondly, I think that what the citizens of the country are demanding is that holding an alternative view in light of what the government is planning to do or is intending to do does not amount necessarily to be an opposition person, but it is simply a signal that there is need for us to listen to each other and to facilitate this process of governing how people operate, what affects the people is taken keen interest of. And so I think that even as the colleagues have submitted, you don't correct what is okay, really. We should be focusing on addressing things that are either not going right and fixing those. Is there a need for us to fix UCDA? I don't see anything that needs to be fixed there. And even if it was, in the worst case scenario that there's anything to fix, it is not top of our priorities. As you may know, among other things, as you've highlighted, UCDA has, among other mandates, to ensure that the quality of coffee is enhanced and that the global market is further enhanced, and we leverage on that space. And this is what UCDA is doing. And so when we talk about value addition, UCDA is at the center of it, and that irrespective of the challenges that UCDA could be facing, there are definitely fruits that have been realized from this process. And so I think that UCDA needs to be supported. UCDA needs to be well equipped and further provided with a mechanism where they can crystallize on their output. There's been this argument, especially been in the media of recent, And the argument is that how much is UCDA contributing to the grand scheme of the of the revenue? It's true that UCDA contributes up to an average of 82.2 trillion in the last financial year. While that may appear to many people that it is less money, it is a big contribution, but also a promise of what we are likely to realize in the coming year. And so there's a great contribution that this coffee, that this institution plays. And lastly is also to emphasize that the governance of a country must at all times resonate with the aspirations and the needs of the people. And that when the people raise concern, when the people express their views in whichever direction, it is important that they must be listened to and that their views must be taken into consideration. Unfortunately, Parliament, which should be the true reflection, but also the platform where people's views find themselves in the decision-making body. As it stands now, they seem to be serving the interest of the executive more than the interest of the people. And so in this specific matter, the people of Uganda are losing in light of their issues. And you've asked very critical questions in light of whether in light of the Buganda kingdom coming out very clearly. These are very critical stakeholders who must be listened, whose views must be taken into consideration, and that even as we make this law, we focus on what matters really. Our colleagues have highlighted the concern of identifying if really money is the problem, is merging UCDA a critical entity. We could focus in reducing the political appointees, the ministers, the RDCs, some of the districts that we don't need in the grand scheme. The number of ministers, those should be reduced. The number of members of parliament and some of these other entities, we could, save a bit of resources from that direction. Ultimately, I think that what the colleagues, what the fellow colleagues in the panel are saying, if I'm to read it right, is that well and good. Let's go ahead and adopt this process of rationalization because they're costs. But more importantly, we shouldn't have a clean slate of rationalization that all agencies, that because we've decided to take that direction, anything called agency should be merged or should be rationalized. We should exercise objectivity in entities that have served and they're actually executing their mandate in the best way possible, should be protected and should be further, enhanced as opposed to rationalizing
them. Timothy, if you allow me, for example, what you said now, when you read through the bill and the intentions, one of the things government tells us is some of these agencies have served their mandate. They agree that they have worked to what they were supposed to do, and they say, but they've now realized that this mandate that is either overtaken by events and it can now be taken back, or they say they are trying to solve a problem of ambiguities where you realize, and many people have been talking about the KCCA and UNRA and the Ministry of Works, where when you comment about a particular road, KCCA says it belongs to UNRA, then UNRA sends you to the Ministry of Works and so many other things. And government is saying, we seek to solve some of these ambiguities. But also the other thing is trying to enforce accountability when you have very many activities in different corners of the country, of the city, of offices. You cannot enforce accountability efficiently. How do you respond to government on that?
I don't know what the definition of accountability means here, but if accountability means being able to provide a clear output of what has been done by the specific entity or individuals, I think that most of these entities still report directly, and they can't hide on matters accountability. The ultimate question and the output we want to realize is that, can UCDA execute its mandate in the best way possible? And most of these institutions, and you see, for UCDA, I think that part of the reason is part of the reason as to why it is still very contentious is that we still have a long way to realize what this institution was established to do. And if you look at some of the functions, some of the functions that UCDA was established, one was around issuing certificates in respect to grade and the quality of coffee. As you may realize, in the global market, it is the quality of the coffee that matters and not the quantity. And so having an institution that focuses on that takes us towards a direction where our quality is valued more, and there's more return that we get. And so the quality of our coffee, yes, we have very nice and very, very good coffee, but if you look at the post-production handling and how some of our farmers handle, I think it is still work in progress, and we need to work on that. And so UCDA has still a role. We still have a long way to actually realizing this mandate. Two, looking at the other, maybe certifying all coffee exports. Again, going back to the issues to do with the quality, the mandate of research, the mandate of advising government of mechanism to determine the prices of scale, liaising with the international bodies, and really looking primarily of how do you ensure that the quality is improved, but also the prices in the global market is enhanced. And so we still have a long way to go. As UCDA achieved whatever it was set out to do, I think not yet. It is work in progress. Has UCDA done a good job? Definitely yes. Does UCDA have potential to realize much better? Definitely. Are there issues that UCDA is facing? Absolutely, yes. What do we need to do? Address those specific issues, strengthen, equip them with more support. And as opposed, I was looking at Professor Seruma's article, and he was comparing the current issues that you see that government is trying to pursue, giving an example of having to take Mulago Referral Hospital, to be a department in Ministry of Health, or trying to identify a university such as Makerere to be a specific department in the Ministry of Education, which defeats the purpose. Looking at things at a grand scheme of scale. So I think that we are in a cat and mouse game, and we seem to now be serving the interest of the politicians as opposed to the interest of the people. Thank you, Philip.
Thank you so much. I want you to invite Elizabeth. I hope you can hear me. And you have a really strong coffee background. What are some of the risks we face as a country, and indeed as coffee farmers, should we lose out on this UCDA dissolution debate? What are the risks? What are the challenges that lie ahead of us in case government goes ahead and this agency is dissolved? Yes, Elizabeth. Yes, I think Elizabeth is unable to hear from us.
I hear you, Philip. I hear you. Hello.
Yes.
I hear you.
I was asking, should government continue to rationalize and dissolve the UCDA? What are some of the challenges and risks we are likely to face in the country?
Philip, I said I strongly object and refuse. The major risks I foresee, like I've told you, one, we have killed, or rather we are killing the morale and the zeal of the people who have been producing the coffee in Uganda. Number two, we are losing on the national economy, because I'm aware coffee was and is still one of a high commodity that has been bringing in more income in Uganda. Definitely, like Mr. Chemonges has put it, the challenges that Ugandans are faced with are very many, and unless those that are in government, they try to feel like Ugandan is not to feel like they are strangers who have come from outside Uganda. They look at the felt needs of Ugandans. They make a research, like most of the speakers have said. For me, UCDA, like any agency, like any department, may have had gaps. But what steps have we taken to address those gaps to ensure that agents gives the people the best services? Therefore, dissolving it is not the answer. One, like most speakers have highlighted, there's a lot of unnecessary expenditures. Even the grants that we receive, people mismanage. Therefore, you cannot tamper one agency that is helping Ugandans to survive and to feel like there are people in Uganda and maybe have some income. You kill it in simply because of their personal interests. I know that Ugandans many times have lost it on elections. And to me, I wouldn't love to think that you can threaten this NRM government on the politics in election, because many times when you want or not, they will be there. But the best we can do, let Ugandans get a concerted effort. Like I know, coffee all over Uganda now is being grown. Therefore, what we need to do is that we should not allow the many risks I foresee, like cutting down in the coffee, people sitting down, people having negative attitude. And we know very well that coffee has been a major income for most families. They pay fees, they maintain families, unless the government of Uganda is looking at depopulating us indirectly. That's why I'm saying there are very many risks. And for that matter, they should halt or stop going ahead in discussing this matter. Or else if they want, they should have a dialogue, do necessary researches, do the necessary consultations. But like many of us have said, this agency has not had any big gaps which we need to correct. So for that matter, the people who have had interior motive evil to do what they want to do, or even as I speak now, they could, if they have already done it, but now they want to see the reaction of Ugandans. We should say no and real no, because we know coffee, the agency is not affecting only one single person. Yeah, it's affecting people who grow coffee, people who export, people who buy and sell. Therefore, each of those categories I've mentioned have a number of risks they are facing, and Ugandans, we should be very careful with the people we take now in the parliament, because these are yes people, and every other day when they ask anything, they do not look at the populace. They not look at what is in it for me as an individual, as a person who is in the parliament. So there are very many, like I have said, right now the risk we majorly see is the people cutting down their coffee or leaving it to grow as shrubs, and therefore no good quality of coffee we shall get, and therefore it will decline in terms of what we produce. And even if those who think they are merging, they will merge nothing, because the owners of the coffee would have said no, and they will not do the work. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth, for that. I see Douglas has something to add to that. Yes, Douglas.
Yes, thank you so much, man, that is hosting us today. I wanted to add a voice to the question you raised. What do we stand lose if UCDA is closed and made as a department under MAIF? These are the reasons why we reject the Coffee Bill 2024 as it stands. We think that we shall lose the benefits of focus. UCDA has been primarily focused on coffee, and the positive results that come with it have been experienced so far. It hasn't been 100%, but we've been seeing our way turning toward greatness that we are really capable of. You know, there are a lot of benefits. So when you take it under MAIF, which is a ministry that has been poorly performing on many fronts, even to the extent of the aspect of agriculture extension services, we shall lose the focus. Secondly, like I said, one of the reasons why and one of the risks that one of the losses that we shall witness is the lack of direct participation and representation of the voice of the coffee farmers, coffee stakeholders, to an authority that is directly responsible will be lost. As you've seen, various entities all over the country, from Uganda, you've been having Bukadef, dealing directly with UCDA, and a lot of positives have been registered. In Bugisu, you've been seeing Bugisu Cooperative Union and other cooperative dealing directly with UCDA. That will be lost. That voice will be lost. The MAIF, Ministry of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries, is so big and humongous. They have a lot to do, and they don't pay attention to the details of a special crop like coffee, affecting livelihoods of over 12 million Ugandans. So basically, those are the main reasons why we reject this. And we observe that the spirit within which this bill is being put forward is about control. Yet we are more interested in empowerment of the people, economic empowerment, not control. You know, over-regulation can hamper progress, you know, and we need just adequate
But you see,
and all. And you the right track. We cannot afford to lose it at this moment.
thank you so much, Douglas, for that submission. I want to bring in Mr. Sakwa here. Sakwa, look, one of the things government is telling us is that in taking it back to the ministry, they are going to be able now to offer a lot of support to smallholder farmers, most specifically, and they talk about giving them access to cheap credit. They talk about training services. They talk about providing market access, but also giving improved seedlings to the farmers at low or no cost. Is it not what farmers need in the coffee sector? Credit, market access, seedlings, training, and all other extension services. Your thoughts on that, Mr. Sakwa?
Thank you, Philip and the viewers. You see, we have a very bloated government with its services. And then you have the red tape. You have the red tape, government red tape. Are you hearing?
Yes, I hear you.
Yes. So you now want to bring more, adding red tape to it, because you are talking about those extension services, bringing services closer to the people, but to some extent that is already happening. So we have some extension workers. They come once in a while through the local government. UCDA sometimes is on the ground. They have been providing us the seedlings, and also some advice, expert advice. Now, when you have people in the ministry there, you are going to add up the red tape, and you will find that the services even deteriorate and don't get even to the people. So this will even eventually trickle down to having the quality of coffee being compromised. And eventually you will find that the farmers will get demotivated. So we think that what is there already, and with UCDA, what it has been doing, even if it had also its own challenges, but we felt at least we felt comfortable with the work of the UCDA. Now, for me, I am really afraid about when the UCDA is dissolved and get back to the government, because we shall not be seeing, we shall be detached from those very services you are talking about. It has been visible. But then when the moment we get this, once it is dissolved, then you will find, because there is corruption, people will say they have been to the field, but they don't even get there. So this affects the production. And you are going to have people cutting down their trees or resorting to growing other crops. For example, cocoa is now earning some good price, over 30,000 a kilo. Actually, I have started growing some cocoa because I am ready. So you never know. I can get lured and even lose interest in the coffee. And yet I have been benefiting from the coffee. I have benefited from coffee from the time when I was still a young child.
Please do not lose the interest.
Yes, because we have, you see, that's why we have that emotional attachment, because like for us, the communities who were traditionally grew coffee, we went to school because of that coffee. We even enjoy the coffee itself. You know, the Bugisu coffee Arabica has that aroma, special aroma. Actually, you will find that even other, when just tasting it, even just when it's locally made here, you just feel it. And even some other countries, some other people who buy, they end up trying to get some Arabic and mix it with other types of coffee. This morning, I was touched. I was listening to NBS, and a particular reporter on NBS from Masaka reported that a cooperative society in a rural area in Masaka had money within this financial year getting 6 billion. Imagine, in just a cooperative society. Then you see what it means, what coffee means to this country. And for some of us who have so much attachment to it.
Thank you, Mr. Sakwa, for that. And it's quite emotional for you. I can feel and hear. Edward, you see, a lot of these justifications are being made. You hear from this panel, at least, or everyone agrees that UCDA is a good entity and it should remain. You hear from many members of parliament, cultural leaders, religious leaders, many people across the country. Why is government reluctant on picking these voices, listening to them and taking their position? What is the key interest of government in not listening to these people?
Yeah, thank you very much, Philip. And many thanks to really panelists. I think you can see 100% cannot really are taking one position. On Saturday, I was on a radio tech show where we were 7 people and we're discussing on the same bill. And I think there was, among the 7, there was only one person from opposition here in Ntungamo under FDC. I was the only person from the NGO. The rest were from a national resistance movement, either mobilizers or even some of them, 3 of them were councillors in the district council of Ntungamo. And all of us, nobody took a position to support the stand that the government is taking. That really shows how this bill is touching to the farmers. So really, I want to add my voice that there are some cash crops in Uganda here that have been really, that have died because of such steps we take before even we ask the farmers, the owners are farmers. The owners is not government. Actually, coffee is for farmers, not government. So first ask them, first take this idea to them. Let them also decide. For example, tea. We have Igara here in Western Uganda, in Igara, Yabushenyi district. It actually government took it up, but it lost value. As I talk now, many farmers of tea removed the tea and planted the coffee. It is now again, the government is saying coffee, we should take it up coffee. So the question you're asking me, why the government is insisting? To me, after making my own analysis, and it is my own, I'm saying it is personal analysis, this is the second penalty coming. There was a stand when the government wanted to give coffee to Peneti. Farmers, the whole country actually, it started shaking. It is like the age limit debate. You could even see it from the parliament, the one that should be uniting Ugandans, the one that should be uniting Africa, but taking sides in parliament. Actually, I'm one of the people disappointed by that lady. So really, it means there is an agenda the few of Ugandans are taking. Because the cabinet, of course, it has to support the president. And we have to be frankly say that. The cabinet supports the government. But when it comes to parliament, of course, that's why you see a lot of arguments. But here we see the speaker who is supporting one person and not supporting the farmers. So really, and you asked a very good question. What the challenge is? To me right now, in my region, I know where parents have sold their coffee, they have looked their coffee very well, and actually, the UCDA has gone a step for quality assurance to make to make sure that you can't put coffee on the ground. You have to put it on a tap rain. And we have seen parents taking their children now in good schools. They take them to Ntare school, they take them to Mary Hill school, because they can get some income from that coffee. We have seen farmers who can actually get social services like health. When somebody is very sick, he cannot go to government health center. That person will go to a private or maybe a bigger hospital. And if you don't have such an income, then it means you are becoming very more poorer than the way you are. And again, the challenge we are fearing here is bureaucracy in ministry. Because demand, price is determined by demand. If now coffee is taken, maybe taken up by ministry, and maybe they have one person going to buy our coffee, then the prices will again go down. So really, in Tungamo right now we have 87 coffee harads, 87. You can imagine now if somebody tampers and says, I want to control coffee in Ntungamo, where will these businessmen, 87 people who have started these machines, factories, where will they go? So really, before we make any decision, we need to ask countrywide. Let us put it on a referendum and ask the voices of the people. Only that also in Uganda, when you say we are going to consult Ugandans, it becomes also like a comedy. You will find MPs not going there. But really, the government should listen to farmers.
Thank you, Mr. Edward Tamba, for that powerful submission. Colleagues, our time is very much fast spent. We have to be out of here in the next about 12 minutes. And in these 12 minutes, I would love to pick your final remarks about this particular subject. Special to note, I see, Edward, in your background, you have a garden there. And if we're talking about coffee and we can see a garden, it's really very interesting to have that in our view. Thank you so much for that. Colleagues, I'm going to pick your final remarks on this in terms of how do you see this ending, but to your final remarks to government, to the MPs, to UCDA and the farmers. What should be done? How are we going to go around this? I'll start with you, Timothy. How do you see this ending and what should be done indeed in the Parliament of the Republic of Uganda? Yes, Timothy.
Thank you so much, Philip. I think that as panelists, we've given our position really, and our hope is that the powers that be or the individuals responsible can be able to pick up some of these views to contribute in the policy making process. We've seen the NRM caucus has been called, and there's going to be discussions centered around this specific coffee. Our hope and our trust is that the members of parliament who we entrusted with the mandate to represent us will speak truth to the power, represent the views of the people, but also tell the president and guide him accordingly in light of where as a country we are at today. And so most likely, if all factors remain constant, we are definitely seeing a situation where UCDA is going to be rationalized, and it will go back to the mother ministry, and that's the catastrophe that is awaiting the country, but also the crisis that is likely to have a direct impact on the livelihoods of the people, factors to do with the bureaucracy, but also affecting how business in the country around coffee is operated. But ultimately, I think that our call is that sanity should prevail. We should have discussions. The leadership should be able to listen more, as opposed to forcing and trying to push things forcefully on the throats of Ugandans. Ultimately, even as we give these views, we give them not because we don't like the government, but because we like the government to take the right decision. We like it because with the right decision, definitely the welfare of Ugandans are improved. But also, really, we've been able to make a lot of mistakes as a country, and that even when we are presented with opportunities to make a specific decision such as this, we shouldn't add more mistakes. Let's be objective in addressing these specific issues. Thank you so much again, Philip, and thank you to CCG for convening us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Timothy Chimonges, Parliament Watch, for that submission. I want to pick you, Elizabeth. What is your final message to Parliament, to government, and indeed final word on the show?
Hello?
Elizabeth, you can hear me? Elizabeth seems unable to hear me right now, but we shall pick on her a little later. Mr. Sakwa, final words to government, to Parliament, and indeed any advice to the powers that be.
Okay, Philip, I'm on. I hear you. Do you hear me?
Yes, Elizabeth, I hear you.
Okay, thank you so much. I have had an interruption with my network here. My final word is, first of all, I am asking the government, did they make a thorough research on dissolving this UCDA? Number two, did they have a dialogue with the people that are concerned, the farmers, the exporters, the sellers and buyers? Then number three, I want them to show us the gaps they found and which gaps, if they failed, to bridge them before they go to do what they want to do. And finally, I want to thank you, Philip, and all my colleagues for participating in this. I pray that we sensitize our communities to know their rights and to persistently say no bad policies. Thank you so much, and may God bless you.
Thank you so much. May God bless you too, Elizabeth, and thank you for your views today. Mr. Sam Sakwa, your final remarks. Yes, kindly unmute and give us your final views or recommendations to Parliament, to government, or whoever you'd want to speak to at this point in time in respect to the coffee bill that is in Parliament.
Yes, I'm saying the government should listen to the voices, the choruses of the people, and think about national interest. There are issues of national interest which touch on the lives of Ugandans, livelihood of Ugandans. And this is something which I have observed over time, that the government sometimes becomes insensitive of matters of national interest. It is high time that that high-handedness is at least rendered or reduced, so that they can value the input of the citizens of Uganda. They should also learn from the past that there are agencies which were created, some of them were removed And now we are finding them to be relevant. For example, Uganda Airlines. Some countries, even if some agencies make losses, but they keep putting in money because of national pride and so on. And then there are those of national interest and also for the economy. So I feel like the issue of the UCDA, it should be something which the government should handle with care. Because the coffee industry is big in Uganda. Like in the sub-region here, in Bugisu, it is our gold. It is our heartbeat. So really, when you touch the coffee, you are touching the lives of Bamasaba. And to the MPs, our MPs who are mainly actually who belong to the government, we are saying, as Bamasaba, let us rise up beyond. And as with the cultural institution, we are saying, this is our thing. Please, you should really defend and go to parliament, because the last time when the bill was being discussed, only there were few voices, and Bamasaba were touched that they did not see many voices of the MPs. And if the second reading comes up, I am sorry, it is going, because people are watching, because they are already on their toes following what was happening. They even were so keen to follow up the signatories, who signed, who did what. Even some people were even trying to confuse with the even their names they were, but the people were able to know who were people who did whatever. So this is a matter which touches us, and they should really represent us very well and make sure that UCDA stays. The only thing is that it is there. If there is anything to be done, then let us add value to UCDA. That is my prayer.
Thank you so much, Mr. Samsakwa, for that recommendation, and we hope the people out there can listen to that. Edward, your final remarks.
Oh, yes, thank you so much, Philip. My final remarks, I want to add my voice on the previous speakers, especially saying that let the government learn from previous mistakes. You know very well that in 1987, Uganda Commercial Bank was privatized. You know how right now, even Ugandans, the way they are suffering with money lenders, with the banks that come from abroad and start businesses here. People's land have been taken, their titles are in the banks. We have been fighting for agricultural bank where we can sell we can save our money from the produce and make sure that we borrow maybe on a soft loan, with low interest. So when government makes these mistakes, it is very hard to revert them. Let them think twice kindly before they run into rationalization of UCDA. So, actually UCDA was formed in 1990, 3 years after privatization. Why do you think government saw it very important to start this authority? It means there is a reason. And to me, as I conclude, the government should be putting much emphasis on actually empowering even these districts. I've been telling my district chairperson, Mr. Sam Muchunguzi, that they should sit down, commercial officers, agricultural officers, they should actually look at how many tons of coffee do we produce in Ntungamo, and how many can we produce? Can we improve? How can we improve? And Uganda committed itself to European Union that by 2030, we should be exporting 20 million bags of coffee. So the government should be looking at how do we reach to that? By empowering UCDA, by doing research other than putting it in the ministry. Lastly, government should actually keep that independence, UCDA, because we have seen citizens getting financial independence. In Ankole, we had matoke. Sometimes in the dry season, matoke cannot be sold anywhere. In this last season, the dry season, I had about 40 buckets of matoke here. I sold them 2,000 each. But this is coffee where you know that I will sell it, get some good price, take my children to school, take my children to health center. And the government, I think, by introducing these programs like a yoga program, like EPDM, but like now like PRO, I think they want citizens to grow financial independence. So let them give us freedom, because coffee was taking us to another level. I want to thank you very much. And of course, I hope even my MPs will be listening to what we are discussing here. Let them take the citizens' voices. Let them take people's voices. Let them not decide in that August House. Today you are there, tomorrow you are not there. Thank you very much, Philip, for hosting us, and CCG for facilitating our discussion. I remain Edward Natamba from Soipan Tungamo. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Edward, for that submission. And lastly, Mr. Muganga Douglas, your final remarks.
Thank you, Philip, for giving us this opportunity to express our opinions about UCDA and all this stuff. I want to quote Article 1 of the Constitution, which says that all power belongs to the people. So if we are the people and we are saying that we need to retain the successes registered by UCDA, those that happen to have authority, the current ruling regime in government, should not close UCDA. That is our voice as the people. Now, we've had a track record where those in government neglect the voices of the people and they do that which serves them. And we are saying that has to end. I wish to call on all Ugandans that there are so many issues for which we've raised voices and these people don't listen. We are tired of raising voices. We want to assert our power. We need to assert our power. Let us organize ourselves. Let us mobilize ourselves and vote for change in 2026 and implement those interests that serve our empowerment on all fronts: economic, political, cultural, and social. If the NRM regime under President Museveni does not respect our voices, they should be put out of power. And that is my final word on this discussion today. Thank you so much, Philip, and thank you to the people that have facilitated this whole discussion. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for that remark. Key to note out of the conversation is everyone is saying, dear government, please listen to your people. And they say, it is not that we do not support you. We just want you to succeed. And of course, when government succeeds, then the people succeed. And when the people succeed, then the country is peaceful, it is able to grow, and it is able to prosper. Thank you so much, Mr. Muganga Douglas, for your views and for making time for the conversation. Thank you so much, Mr. Sam Sakwana Pokoli, for your views and for making time for the conversation. Timothy Chemonges, thank you so much for your views and for making time for the conversation. Edward Natamba, thank you so much for your views and for making time for the conversation. And indeed, Elizabeth Mabonga, thank you so much for your views and for making time for the conversation. And to you, our viewers, thank you so much in a special way for making time to always be on Civic Space TV to watch Community Voices Uganda, and indeed all other programs we run on this particular television. Special thanks to the people behind the machines that make sure all this is put together with good quality and viable to watch it. And indeed, special thanks to the Center for Constitutional Governance and all our partners for making sure that all we do is able to be done in the right time and at the right place. Thank you so much. I'm Philip, Melissa, and I shall see you next time.